Greetings, sailors, and welcome back to World of Warships. Now, I've picked out a Shimakaze game to put in the background of this one, but it's not really so much going to be about the gameplay. It's more going to be about the radio position finding skill that's been recently introduced. And I've not talked about this up until now, but with the patch having gone live and the new captain skills having come into effect, well, it seemed like a good time to do it because I do have one or two thoughts on the subject. And just to talk about the new captain skills a little more generally as well. Now, the first thing to say about them, actually, and the thing I want to get out of the way at the start, is that we can probably expect some changes. I'm not thinking RPF and the other skills, I mean, some of them will stay the same in the longer term, but I highly suspect that Wargaming will be looking at what skills people are using, what effect they're having on the battles, and that we will see some tweaks and changes over the coming, year probably. So the way things are now are not necessarily the way things are going to be this time next year. So bear that in mind. I know a lot of people have been predicting doom with RPF in particular, or is it RDF? I should know which it is, but I'm just going to keep calling it RPF for simplicity's sake. Because it's the one that has the most kind of dramatic effect. Now, there are some others that also have dramatic effects in maybe more specific ways. I mean, the inertial fuses for HE, for instance, skill. For some cruisers that is a massive buff, but only some cruisers. And RPF in particular, well, a lot of people were... I don't want to say being overly dramatic about it, because it is quite a big thing, but at the same time, it's only kind of a big thing in certain specific circumstances in game. And the reason why I've picked out this particular match is because this demonstrates quite nicely, at least to my eyes, both the offensive. The way in which it's good for you as a player, but also the way in which it's bad for you as a player, all in the same match. So this is my Shimakaze. This thing is fairly new, still has the stock torpedoes, which are they're fairly slow. They've got 62 knot speed, and also a 2.5 kilometer detection range. So nobody, well, at least, should be using the 20 kilometer torpedoes by choice. Some people might still be, but my excuse is I'm still grinding this thing out. I'm not actually that far off from the 12 kilometer torp. I mean, you can see I've got the Ocean Soul camo on there to help out. Anyway, so I've got RPF on this captain, and this is telling me exactly where this Benson is going. So this is a situation, a scenario where RPF has been really useful for me, but really bad for this enemy Benson, because he cannot get away from me. There's no way he can slip away. I'm always going to know which direction he's going in, because he's the closest ship. And so, for destroyers, for any stealthy ship, it really does shut down. If you encounter somebody with RPF, it absolutely shuts down the possibility of surprising somebody, of trying to make a getaway or trying to sneak up to somebody unawares, because they're just going to know about it. And this is why this is such a powerful skill in the right circumstances. That guy was just screwed because he met me and I had RPF. And so at that point there wasn't anything he could do except keep trying to run. Now, he could have tried to run back to allies, and instead he ran straight south. But even if he tried to run back to his allies, I could have changed my intercept angle, because I would have known exactly the direction he was going in. And that is the power of RPF right there. It works at any range. It works all the time, and there's no downsides to it. It's not a really precise indicator. I think somebody, in fact, multiple people have figured out it's something like a 22.5 degree arc, where it tells you if the ship is in that arc. But it's even that's enough to tell you the general heading of a ship, so you can intercept them like that. And so that guy was basically screwed. The moment that I came along with RPF, he was doomed. If he'd been near multiple allies, then it would have been better. for him, because he maybe could have slipped behind an allied cruiser and then the cruiser would have been the closest thing, kind of thing. But in destroyers, quite often you don't want to be just hanging around in the middle of a pack of allies. You want to be out front spotting, or you want to be trying to slip around a flank. And this is where RPF is bad for the game. And I personally do think it is overall bad for the game. I think there are more negatives than positives with RPF. Is that it shuts down this whole side of gameplay of trying to be sneaky, of trying to flank, of trying to use stealth. And it's not just for destroyers, it's for stealthy cruisers. I mean, the RN cruisers and some of the Japanese cruisers, for instance, rely on stealth to do what they do. And so RPF is just bad for stealth generally. And of course, it does depend on somebody on the enemy team having it. But out of 12 ships, there's a fairly good guess that at least one person will have it. Now, whether or not you're going to bump into them specifically is entirely a matter of chance. And the thing is, there's no way to outplay it, especially. It just is. It's like being spotted or not being spotted. It's a binary state. If someone has it or they don't have it, there's no way to fool it. There's no way to deploy a countermeasure. It's not like you can pop a metaphorical cloud of smoke and people have suggested that you could have a radio mechanism whereby you manually turn off your radio and then you're not relaying information to allies or getting information from allies, but then you can't be detected by RPF. That would be a countermeasure, and it would have some disadvantages personally for you while you were doing it, but it would be a way to do something about somebody with RPF that's detecting you. And it seems, I don't know, it seems curious that Wargaming have just put in this mechanic specifically with no way of counteracting it, because Wargaming usually do. That there's usually, I mean, I say that, it's not always the case, but there's usually some way of outskilling, something. Like a cloud of smoke, for instance. Well, okay, you can get in close and use hydro, or maybe you're slightly further away and you're in a ship with radar and you might have to take a bit of a risk to get close enough to use your radar or your hydro, but you can do something about it. Whereas with RPF, I mean, let's say somebody, I think this is another thing that it denigrates, is the value of smoke. With RPF, you can tell, you get sufficient angle, you can tell whether somebody's hanging around in a cloud of smoke or whether they've just used the smoke as a decoy, and then it's therefore, let's say I'm in this thing and somebody pops a cloud of smoke and I move around a bit to determine, are they still in the smoke or are they actually moving through the smoke? Are they just passing through? And if I can tell they're still in the smoke, then okay, that tells me let's put out a cloud of torpedoes into the smoke and see what happens. So it's just, I think, not been a positive thing overall, but I'm willing to give it some time to see how it shakes out in practice. I would like to see something that counteracts it, though. I think as a mechanic at the moment, I mean, it's not like it's super powerful all the time. For the majority of this game, RPF isn't that useful, but there's two specific times, we've already seen what happened to that Benson. RPF was extremely useful, to the point where that Benson was basically screwed. There was nothing he could do to counter that. And that's not a good gameplay mechanic. That denigrates player skill. And I've got a theory. Well, I've actually got two theories about why RPF is in the game at all. One is that maybe they are adding it as a mechanic to try and make matches shorter. Maybe they're looking at their global statistics and thinking there's too many 20-minute matches, and we would like matches to be shorter. Because I think in Wargaming's eyes, the notion of having this was a complete, like, turning this way was a complete mistake, by the way. I'm about to get spotted by that Derpitz, which is not the wisest move, but never mind. Anyway, yes, I mean, I don't have any figures to back this up, only Wargaming knows, but if Wargaming's feeling is they would like shorter matches to maybe increase the appeal of World of Warships, then you could see RPF as being a step towards that, because you're maybe going to have less drawn out matches where people are, you've got one stealthy destroyer at the end or whatever, or stealthy cruiser that tries to run away or tries to make a play right at the end in the last couple of minutes and just drags the whole thing out. And that's going to be pertinent to this game in particular. You're going to see why. Not that RPF actually does prevent that from happening, but it does prevent something from happening. So that's one thought, and that's just pure speculation. I mean, most of this is pure speculation, what I'm saying. This is just my thoughts on the matter. But you could make an argument for that RPF is designed to try and make matches a bit shorter overall, to bring down that global time, to make 20-minute matches less common. The other thought I've had is that maybe they have in mind that they want it to be kind of like or to fill some of the function that RNG does in World of Tanks. And of course there is RNG in this game, but primarily with the dispersion of your guns. That's the main function of RNG, or the main area that RNG affects. Whereas in World of Tanks, it affects not only your dispersion, but it also affects your penetration and your damage, which of course isn't the case in warships. It's one of the things I like about warships. But the function that fills within World of Tanks, although the level of RNG, the 25% range for penetration and damage is not the most popular. And with the sandbox, they're actually proposing to make dispersion worse in World of Tanks as well. The idea behind that is, as a gameplay mechanic, to make or to give worse players a chance of beating better players, if that makes any sense. Because the whole philosophy, the core idea or the core audience for World of Tanks is that it's a casual game. It's meant for, and this is more or less what Victor Kisley has himself said. I'm not going to say I've spoken to him personally, but I was there when he was there in Tankfest 2014, and then he did the little Q&A session with various contributors, and he basically said that this game is meant for the dads coming home from work and to jump in and have some quick games and just have a bit of relaxation. And the idea behind that is, well, not everybody has the time to sit down and be super skilled. This was never meant to be another CS:GO, but with tanks kind of thing. So the RNG serves the function of it levels the field basically between good players and bad players. So the RNG will help you sometimes, and other times it will hurt you. And if you're a bad player, sometimes you'll get those ridiculous random shots that you just wouldn't have managed without the RNG. And other times it will work against you. But the idea is that you'll just every so often have those moments where RNG pats you on the back, and it feels really good when that happens. It's like playing warships, and you let's say you're in a battleship and there's another broadside battleship, and you'll get 2 or 3 citadels or more in one go at 15 kilometers range or whatever, where there is a fair amount of RNG involved, but it feels really good when that happens, right? So there's a bit of psychology that's gone into the game design. Now, how RPF fits in with this idea is, I think, again, speculation on my part, that maybe the idea is that, like RNG in World of Tanks, it serves to reduce the skill gap. It maybe it gives less good players a chance against better players by choosing this skill. And bear in mind, when you're doing these skill builds, you can go and look at Ship Comrade's Captain Skill Calculator, for example, and you can stick on RPF, but it's a top rank skill. You need to give up useful stuff in order to have RPF on any ship, really. And you can get it on most ships. You could have it on every ship you own, but you would have to give up useful other skills to do that. But if you do choose to do that, then there are situations when it's going to come in very handy, and it's going to negate somebody's chance to be stealthy and to sneak up on you. And it's more specifically a defense against destroyers and torpedoes. And it's not like there's that many cruisers that can stealth torpedo, but even stealthy cruisers, you could use it as a countermeasure from somebody trying to sneak up to you in a cruiser. You would know they're trying to come up to you from a certain direction and start spamming you with HE, or smoke up and start spamming you with HE, and you would maybe be prepared for that, or to be able to take evasive maneuvers. Now in this case, this is now me being on the wrong end of RPF. Earlier on it was the Benson. In this case it's this Yamato who's also got the skill, and I can tell he's got it because the game tells me. So yeah, now maybe I'm playing this wrong. For one thing, these are the crappy stock 20km torpedoes, which isn't helping. If I had the 12km torpedoes even, they would maybe be a bit better. They'd be faster. It'd be less easy for him to see. That's not helping me. But he always is going to know which direction I'm going. And it's not so much that I can't outrun him because he's an Yamato. It's the fact that I can't get the jump on this guy. There's no way for me to be sneaky here. All I could do is just keep spamming torpedoes in his direction and hope it works out. And I've managed one hit, so if I managed another one soon, then maybe it would work. But on the other hand, with the 2.5km detection range, he's got a fairly good chance of seeing these before they actually appear. And if he's got the target acquisition module, or if he's using the vigilance skill, it's going to be an even longer distance before at which he's able to spot these. So I was trying to think here, bear in mind this is in my second or third game with the Shima and with this skill. I was trying to turn him back into the torpedoes, but because I'd only put out one, what launcher's worth, and because they've got this horrible detection range, he was able to actually predict, or actually just easily dodge the gap. Maybe it would have worked if I'd been a bit closer. Maybe I was being too cautious here, because I do have concealment expert on this captain. I could get down to just under 6 kilometers range. I think it's 5.9 with concealment and camo on this ship, and the concealment module as well. But yeah, you could, I think, in principle do that. You could try and juke somebody to turning into your torpedoes. But aside from that, there's not a lot you can do. There's no way I can make a stealthy approach. This Yamato can always keep bow on towards me, because he always is going to know which direction I'm at. So yeah, it works both ways. It works both ways. It can help you, and it can also really hurt you. And it really, more than any of the other skill, it definitely changes the dynamic of the game. And whether that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing overall. My gut feeling is that it's going to be a bad thing, because it does denigrate player skill to some extent. It does remove options. But maybe it won't be that bad in the long run, or maybe Wargaming will tweak it. Maybe they will give us some way to counteract it. I don't know. I'm willing to see how it shakes out. I'm not predicting massive doom, but I kind of wish they hadn't added it. I don't think it's a thing that is good for the skill level of the game overall, because you don't have to learn to predict what enemy ships might be doing with RPF. I've been in that Yamato situation myself, without RPF obviously, where there's a destroyer hunting you and you've got to outthink them. And this is the part where denigrating player skill comes in. You no longer have to outthink them because you know exactly what they're going to do. You know exactly the direction they're in, and so you know which way to point your ship to avoid torpedoes coming in. Nobody's going to be able to sneak round you and get broadside torpedo shots if you've got RPF anymore. So it just shuts down a whole level of play, and I don't think that's a good thing overall. It takes something away from the game. So there we go. Not the best game ever in the Shima. I probably did things wrong there, and I probably would have had a better time with the crappy stock torpedoes. But or the non-stock torpedoes is what I meant. The non-crappy non-stock torpedoes. I can English, but yeah, it I don't know. It feels like it might be an okay ship, but I've picked a funny time to get it, really. Having finally gotten my second tier 10 ever, just in time for what is effectively a nerf to any kind of sneaky play style. It's going to be now more like World of Tanks, where you're sort of depending on the luck of the matchmaker, because maybe you'll get into a match where nobody has RPF on the enemy team, but maybe you'll get into a match where everybody has RPF on the enemy team. And it's like that in World of Tanks. You know, maybe you'll get a match where there's no artillery, but maybe you'll get a match where there's 5. It makes a hell of a difference. And the matchmaking, just, you know, the luck of the draw of the matchmaking and what skills an enemy player happens to have on their captain, making such a difference. It makes it hard to, like, it makes it a really variable experience, and I don't want it to be like World of Tanks in that way. The difference between an arty match and a no arty match, because it can almost end up being like 2 different games in terms of what that then gives you the freedom to do, or what that then ends up locking down a match. If that was even worse English, but you know what I mean. Artillery can absolutely have a chilling effect on a game, and RPF can might end up having that same kind of effect. Anyway, so that's enough rambling on the subject. We'll see in the long term how it works out. You know, it's here now. There's no avoiding it. So we'll just have to learn how to live with it and how to exploit it, and I don't know, maybe Wargaming will do something more with the mechanic at some point. I certainly hope they will. But for now, I will be interested to see people's thoughts in the comments below. You can also hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, if you found it interesting. You can sub to my channel if you haven't already. And as always, stay tuned for more.